Okay, what up friendos, and welcome back. It's another day, it's another New World video, and I figured since it's all official now, we just go over what Amazon said regarding New World, the likely outcome over the coming months and maybe year, as well as people's reaction and specifically the numbers that tell a really interesting story here. So, if you've been living under a rock, Amazon Game Studios spent the last decade billions of dollars trying to really get into the gaming market, and they did this in multiple ways. What a lot of people don't know is when Amazon bought Twitch, the idea of buying Twitch for $1 billion was to leverage what is essentially the best, the largest, the most effective marketing tool ever for video games and build a competitor to Steam, which never materialized, which is kind of displaying whoever was running, this section, the gaming / media streaming section of Amazon, basically killed the golden goose because nobody ever even noticed they were doing this. And as part of that, New World originally, internally, was billed as this game that was going to leverage Twitch to be playable and to be accessible for like audiences and things like that, and push that idea forward, as well as obviously to build out a game engine to compete with Unreal and Unity. So essentially Amazon did what Amazon would always do due to their sheer arrogance and hubris, which was, we're not just going to come into the gaming market and make a game and maybe that game's going to do well. We're going to come in and we're going to simultaneously make amazing games that are going to make tons of money. We're going to make an engine that's going to make tons of money being licensed out to other people like Unreal and Unity. And we're going to build Steam. So we're going to do everything all the time, all at once, the most successfully. And, that's a crazy thing you're going to do. But it's not impossible when you have infinite money to throw at the problem. The issue is that all the wrong people were hired and put into the wrong places, or the right places if you wanted to see Amazon fail, I guess. So long story short, what we got was New World, which was built on tech nobody wanted to use internally. It wasn't fit for purpose, and the game launched literally 4 years too soon because they created a sandbox PvP game. Then in 1 year's time fired all of the people leading the PvP sandbox game, pivoted into sort of like a hybrid theme park game with no content crossover whatsoever, and then released to a bunch of people that didn't want to play the game because there was no real game there. And it's a shame for a few reasons, one of which being the people who actually designed some of the systems within New World, the people who worked on the art, the people that worked on the world, the people that worked on the sound, knocked this out of the park. New World, on launch, was one of the best feeling MMOs to be in the world that's probably ever released and ever will be released. The game felt great. The issue is, of course, is that there was nothing really under the hood. There was nothing to really sink your teeth into once you got beyond the initial experience. And the game needed many more years to be developed. And unfortunately, they did this as a live product, and it just never got off its feet. You can look at the numbers and you can see New World's player count just never recovered. It never had an even remote recovery. And despite what people are saying, due to either recency bias or just copium, I guess, the latest update that made New World the best it's ever been, like an amazing game now, failed to garner a jump in population even as good as the update from last year, from 12 months ago. So, long story short, obviously, you know where I'm going with this. New World is dead. The game's dead, as we've discussed, and it's kind of official now. Some people on the copium train that something different's going to happen here, and that it's not technically dead because it's still playable. But the game's receiving no updates ever again. It's fucked. And Amazon have said some interesting things here. They've said they're going to keep servers operating through 2026, allowing the community time to continue their adventures in Eternum, and it's going to be still downloadable for PlayStation Plus members, etc. There's some interesting things here. Like, they said the game would still be playable and buyable on all platforms, and then they removed the game from Steam briefly, right? They stopped the game being purchased on Steam. And you can see in the Steam DB updates that somebody went into the New World Steam listing and removed all of the content. They removed every single picture, every single video, and they basically just posted one image, and it was this image. It was an update on the future in New World. It's no longer getting updates, funnily enough. And it was like this for a day, and then somebody went back in and re-added all the screenshots, or at least a large majority of them, and re-added the video, removed the image saying that it wasn't going to get any further updates, and put the game back for sale. Which is kind of crazy to me, to be honest, that Valve would even allow this on Steam, because you're buying a live service game here that is no longer going to be updated. Like, this is essentially an early access scam, right? But you actually know up front that it's not going to be receiving any updates. A lot of games release on early access and you're like, oh, I'll buy this because, you know, in the future maybe it's going to get a bunch of updates and things. This is selling a game for, it's like £50 that's just no longer going to get any updates and could close down much sooner than they've said. So what they've said is they're going to support the game through 2026 and give you at least 6 months notice before they close the servers. But the population of New World has, I expected it to go down maybe 30-40% on news that the game was not going to be receiving any updates. But this just really goes to show that perception plays such a huge factor in people playing live service games, which is what MMOs are and always have been. They're games that require consistent updates to keep people interested. If people think that a game doesn't have a future, they will not play the game. And you can see this from the numbers right now. Like, the game was at 50,000 player peak. And on news that this happened, it dropped to 6,000. Like, the 24-hour peak, 2 days away from the news, is 12,000. They've lost 2/3 of their player base overnight, just immediately. And this is only going to get worse. I'd be very surprised if New World had more than 2,000 player peak in a week's time, because this is the death spiral of any live service product. It's everything combined. You have no future, and you know you have no future. There is literally isn't a single person working at the studio that made New World anymore, by the way. They're all gone. The studio's closed. But not only that, as people quit, you can't find people to do content with, which then makes it pointless for you to log in. And then obviously new people aren't buying the game, so there's no new people coming in. And very, very quickly, you know, there's only people going around doing solo content and a few hundred people left in the game at any given time. It's just fucked. And the fact that they've said they're going to keep it running through 2026 is interesting, because I think if the game isn't, as a player base, supporting keeping the servers running, they're probably going to end this much, much sooner. The interesting things here is, one, they're not offering refunds for people. So if you bought the game the day before this announcement, you shit out of luck. If you spent money on microtransactions, as you can see here, our refunds available for Mark of Fortune purchases, which is their cash shop currency. If you were like, oh, this new update's really good, let me just support the game I paid a box price for 5 years ago by buying some microtransactions, unfucking lucky. You've just bought premium currency for a game that you probably don't want to play anymore because it's dead man walking. This is Weekend at Bernie's type shit. I would just walking the corpse around. So that's that. But obviously there has also been confirmation that pretty much everything Amazon Game Studios was working on is dead. And there's a few implications here, because Amazon Game Studios was obviously working on, as we discussed yesterday, the day before, whatever it was, the new Lord of the Rings MMO. That's dead. Obviously, there's actually reports coming out saying this now. As you can see here, part of the layoffs, blah, blah, blah. Our new fledgling Lord of the Rings game, you all would have loved it. This is all gone. The other implication being, obviously, Amazon Game Studios was recently working as a third-party publisher for some MMOs. They were going to do Blue Protocol. That obviously didn't happen because Blue Protocol failed miserably in Japan and closed down. They were obviously doing Throne and Liberty and Lost Ark. Now, There has been a notice posted for those two games with Amazon basically saying nothing's going to change. We're still operating these games. They're still going to get updates. But as there are some people saying that New World closing down and Amazon Game Studios no longer existing essentially in any meaningful way is not going to impact those games. And let me just remind you what we just talked about with the perception thing. I think a lot of people that live on social media and discuss these things don't understand that the majority of people are complete casuals. Like 95% of people that play video games never interact with almost anything on social media. They don't get news like we do. We are just in a bubble. When they see Amazon Game Studios is closing down and they open a video game or look at a video game and it says Amazon Game Studios on it, they don't know that they're a third-party publisher. They don't even fucking know what a third-party publisher is. Like, I see people on social media that are even posting on social media all the time, say things that a 1 second Google search or just knowing what they're talking about would disprove exactly what they're saying. There was a guy saying yesterday on Reddit that Nexon pulled funding and killed Project Ghost. And it's like, Nexon never had anything to do with that company, and you are on social media talking about MMOs and you're getting NetEase and Nexon confused. Like, if people are doing that, how many people are going to look at Amazon Game Studios no longer existing, not read that this is being supported and not understand and not play these games as a result? It's absolutely going to impact the games that they're publishing. Not only that, when people say, oh, but Amazon have said they're still supporting these and nothing's going to change. If they don't continue operating as a publisher, then when the contract ends, which is how these things work, they have a publishing contract with these companies essentially saying, we'll give you a percentage of the revenue and we'll operate the servers. But it's like 50-50 most of the time after operating costs. So Amazon will just be getting a cut for essentially being customer service and running servers and localization, translation, basically. Once those contracts end, the company then has to find another publisher. There are a bunch out there. A lot of them are really shit and shady. And migration for publisher services usually isn't a big deal. But that doesn't mean stuff isn't going to change. And there is potential that they don't find a publisher they want to work with. And maybe Throne and Liberty isn't doing well enough in the West for them to even bother, right? That being said, let's take a look, I guess, at some of the reaction to New World being closed, not closed down, but essentially, taken out back and shot in the head. People are making petitions. People are making, change.org. Jeff Bezos, not even the CEO of the company, by the way, please don't close down this studio that you've already closed, as if a mega corporation, like something out of a fucking science fiction, something out of cyberpunk, he's going to go, oh, actually, X thousand people said continue wasting money on this endeavor that is not successful. Okay, we'll rehire all these people and continue doing that for charity. Like, I understand people being upset that their game's being closed, but realistically, I'm going to say the unpopular thing here that people are going to be upset at. New World, as a game, should have been closed down multiple years ago. The fact that it got to this stage is a blessing. You should, as a player, obviously hate Amazon because it's Amazon, but as a player, you should be thankful it even got here, because practically any other company would have closed this game down in like 2022. Like, the fact it's 2025 and they were still putting money into this game is fucking crazy. Like, this game never should have gotten to this stage if you look at the numbers. Like, it's actually insane that it managed to get here in the first place. That being said, there's these crazy takes, and people are upvoting this, where people are saying the game didn't die because it didn't make enough money. It died because Amazon laid off 30,000 workers across various parts of the company. You know why they laid off 30,000 workers across various parts of the company? And a lot of them were working in the gaming division, because the gaming division didn't make any money. Do you think companies look at a thing making a bunch of money and go, actually, let's close it and fire all the people? No, that's not how it works. It wasn't making money, and New World was their only game. New World wasn't financially viable. It wasn't successful. It wasn't sustainable. And if you think otherwise, again, I remind you, you might think New World was the best it's ever been right now. But the issue is that even with this free DLC, giving the game away for free, essentially, if you already owned it, which millions of people did, even with the biggest update, even with everybody saying the game's the best it's ever been, it still couldn't even reach the peaks of a year ago before they did all this, before it was the best it's ever been. Millions of people own this game, and despite that, despite a $0 cost of entry, people wasn't returning to play it. Like, this wasn't making money. They tried for years and years to get this thing to success, to viability, and they couldn't. So the only logical conclusion is that the game closes down. It sucks. It absolutely does for the people that enjoy it and have been enjoying this update. But considering they've released an update like once per year and it's got less successful every time they've done it, do you really think that this was like the turning point and the game deserved to be kept alive based on provable statistical dwindling numbers? Like, I don't know, guys. Again, I sympathize with the people that really have been enjoying the game, and it sucks because I wanted to go back and play the game, and there's really no reason to at this stage. But this was, it was so long coming that you had to see this coming, unless like you were just so high on copium that you couldn't see the writing on the wall. That all being said, I think it's basically done. There's no more videos need to be made about New World unless something crazy happens. I'd be very surprised if at the end of 2026 these servers are still running. I legitimately think this player base, with how quickly it's dropped in the last 48 hours, is going to be completely unsustainable for people to even play and enjoy the game beyond like a solo experience of playing like a single player RPG. It'll be like finding a fucking mega rare when you see another person running around in the world. They'll have to merge all the servers very, very quickly. And who's even working at the company still to do this? Like, it's actually wild how quickly this has all transpired. But there we go. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you on the next one, I guess. Check the links in the video description. Gamer Subs, if you want to support me, use my code. You get a discount. I get money off your purchase. Win-win for everybody, and I'll see you next time. Suggest content if you want to see me cover something specifically. Twitter, Discord's open, all those things in the bio, and see you next time. Stay safe. Peace.